The stars looked different in this part of space. Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable and watched them through the main screen. His ship was the newest battleship that Earth had ever built. It was strong, fast, and ready for anything the galaxy might throw at them. "Captain, we are 3 days into the survey mission," said Commander So-Young Park, his first officer. She was reading from a tablet in her hands. "All systems are working perfectly. The crew is doing well," Hyunwoo nodded. This was the Indomitable's first real mission. For 2 years, the ship had been tested near Earth. Now they were far from home, mapping new star systems and looking for planets that humans might live on someday. It was quiet work, but important. Chief Engineer Tae-ho Lee walked onto the bridge. His uniform was clean, but his hands showed the oil stains that never quite washed off. "Captain, the new engines are running better than we hoped. We could push them harder if we needed to." "Good to know," Hyunwoo said. "Let's hope we don't need to." At her station, communications specialist Min-ho Jung was listening to the radio waves from space. Most of the time there was nothing but empty noise. Today felt the same as any other day. Weapons Officer Ji-hai Choi checked her systems for the 3rd time that morning. The railguns were loaded and ready. The missile tubes were full. The point defense lasers were charged. She hoped they would never need to use any of it. But she kept everything ready just in case. Far away in another part of space, Admiral Vextra of the Cathari Empire was looking at a very different kind of screen. His ship was 3 times bigger than the human battleship. It was covered in smooth metal that shined like silver. Lights ran along its sides in patterns that showed everyone how powerful it was. "Admiral, our sensors have found something strange," said his science officer. The alien looked like a tall human, but his skin was blue and his eyes were completely black. "There are energy readings from Sector 779. They do not match anything in our database." Vextra smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp to be human. Another primitive species trying to reach for the stars, no doubt. "Send a message to the fleet commanders. We will investigate this new discovery." The Cathari had done this many times before. They would find a new species that had just learned to travel between stars. They would show their powerful ships and advanced weapons. The new species would be so scared that they would surrender without a fight. Then the Cathari would add another star system to their empire. It had worked the same way for over 100 years. The Cathari controlled 17 star systems now. No one had ever fought back. 12 Cathari ships moved through space toward the energy readings their sensors had found. Each ship was beautiful and deadly looking. Their hulls were perfect. Their weapons were designed to look scary as much as they were meant to be dangerous. When other species saw these ships, they usually gave up immediately. Back on the Indomitable, Min-ho Jung was the first to notice something wrong. "Captain, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors," he said. His voice was calm, but there was worry in it. 12 objects moving toward us. "They're big, sir. Much bigger than our ship." Hyunwoo felt his stomach tighten. This was what they had trained for, but hoped would never happen. "Can you tell what they are?" "Not yet, sir. They're still too far away, but they're definitely artificial. Someone built those things, so..." Young moved to stand next to the captain's chair. "First contact, sir?" "Maybe," Hyunwoo said. He thought about his orders from Earth Command. If they met aliens, they were supposed to try to make friends. But they were also supposed to protect themselves and their ship. "Ji-hee, bring weapons to standby. Don't target anything yet, but be ready." "Yes, sir," Ji-hai said. Her hands moved over her controls with practiced speed. "Tae-ho, how are the engines?" "Ready for anything, Captain. I can give you full power in 30 seconds if you need it." "Min-ho, keep scanning those ships. I want to know everything about them as soon as possible." The next few hours passed slowly. The alien ships got closer, and the Indomitable's sensors got a better look at them. They were definitely warships. Their weapons were different from human weapons, but they were clearly designed to destroy other ships. "Captain," Min-ho said suddenly, "they're sending us a message. It's being translated by the computer now." Everyone on the bridge waited. First contact with aliens was supposed to be one of the most important moments in human history, but this didn't feel like the peaceful meeting that everyone had hoped for. "Translation complete, sir," Min-ho said. "The message says, 'You primitive vessel, you are in the territory of the Cathari Empire. Your ship and crew now belong to us. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Every human there was thinking the same thing. These aliens expected them to give up without a fight. Ji-hai spoke first. Sir, their lead ship is powering up weapons. They're not pointing them at us yet, but they're getting ready. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. These were good people. They had families back on Earth. They had trained for years to serve on this ship, and now aliens were telling them to surrender like they were nothing more than children with a toy boat. Minho, open a channel to the alien ships, Hyunwoo said. His voice was steady and calm. Channel open, sir. Hyunwoo stood up from his captain's chair. He looked at the main screen where the alien ships were getting bigger every minute. This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the United Earthship Indomitable. You have 30 seconds to explain your presence in this sector before we consider you hostile. On the alien flagship, Admiral Vextra could not believe what he had just heard. In over 100 first contacts, no primitive species had ever spoken to him like that. They always begged for mercy or tried to run away. This was going to be very different from what either side expected. Admiral Vextra stared at the communication display on his bridge. In all his years of commanding Cathari fleets, no primitive species had ever spoken to him with such boldness. They usually begged for mercy or tried to flee in their crude ships. This human captain had actually given him an ultimatum. "Admiral, what are your orders?" asked his weapons officer. The blue-skinned alien's hands hovered over the firing controls, waiting for permission to destroy the insolent human vessel. Vextra's black eyes narrowed as he studied the human ship on his screen. It looked different from other primitive vessels they had encountered. While most new species built ships that looked impressive but were actually weak, this human battleship looked like it was built for war. Its hull was thick and practical. Its weapons were positioned for maximum effect, not for show. "Send them our standard demonstration," Vextra ordered. "Fire warning shots near their ship. Show them what our plasma cannons can do. That will make them see reason." On the Indomitable, Commander So Young Park watched the tactical display as bright energy bolts flew past their ship. The alien weapons were powerful, creating explosions of light and heat in the empty space around them. "They're trying to scare us," she said to Captain Kim. "Their weapons are impressive, but those were definitely warning shots. They could have hit us if they wanted to." Chief Engineer Tae-ho Lee was studying the sensor readings from the alien weapons fire. His thick eyebrows drew together as he looked at the data. "Captain, their weapons are energy-based. Plasma cannons, from what I can tell. Very powerful, but what, Tae-ho?" Captain Kim asked. "Sir, their ships are designed for fighting enemies who can't fight back effectively. Look at their positioning. They're spread out in a line like they're putting on a parade. That's not how you arrange ships if you expect a real battle." Weapons Officer Ji-hai Choi nodded in agreement. "Their targeting systems are very predictable too, sir. They're using standard approach patterns. It's like they've never had to fight someone who would shoot back." Captain Kim thought about this information. The aliens had powerful ships and weapons, but they fought like they had never faced real opposition. That might give humanity an advantage even though the human ship was outnumbered 12-1. "Minho, are they sending another message?" he asked. Communications specialist Minho Jung checked his equipment. "Yes, sir. Same message as before. They're demanding that we surrender immediately. I think it's time we showed them that humans don't surrender so easily," Captain Kim said. He turned to Ji-hai. "Target their lead ship. Load Railgun 1 with a tungsten penetrator round." Ji-hai's eyes lit up. The railgun was humanity's newest weapon technology. It used magnetic fields to fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The tungsten round would hit with the force of a small asteroid. "Target locked, sir. Railgun loaded and ready. Fire." The Indomitable's railgun fired with no flash of light or sound in the vacuum of space. The tungsten projectile, no bigger than a telephone pole but moving at a significant fraction of light speed, crossed the distance to the alien ship in seconds. On the Cathari flagship, Admiral Vextra was preparing another demand for surrender when his tactical officer screamed in alarm. "Incoming projectile. Impact in 3 seconds. Shields at maximum power." The tungsten round hit the Cathari ship's energy shields like a hammer hitting glass. The aliens had never encountered kinetic weapons before. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons like their own plasma cannons. Against a solid projectile moving at such incredible speed, the shields might as well have been made of paper. The tungsten penetrator punched through the shields, through the ship's armor, and deep into its hull. It didn't explode like an energy weapon would. Instead, it kept going, tearing through deck after deck until it finally stopped in the ship's engine room. Alarms screamed on every Cathari vessel as they watched their flagship suddenly lose power and begin venting. Atmosphere into space, how is this possible? Vexitra shouted as his bridge shook from secondary explosions. Our shields are impenetrable. His science officer was frantically checking sensor readings. Admiral, they used a kinetic weapon. A solid projectile at tremendous velocity. Our shields weren't designed to stop physical objects moving that fast. On the Indomitable, the crew watched as the alien flagship began to drift helplessly. Direct hit, sir, Ji-Hai reported with satisfaction. Their ship is severely damaged. They're losing power and atmosphere. Tejo was studying the sensor readings from the impact. Captain, look at this. Their energy shields didn't even slow down our projectile. They've never had to defend against kinetic weapons before. So Young turned to the captain. Sir, the other alien ships are backing away from us. I don't think they know how to respond to this. Captain Kim nodded. The aliens had come here expecting an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, they had lost one of their ships to a weapon type they had never seen before. Now they were confused and afraid. Minho, are we receiving any communications from the aliens? Yes, sir. Multiple transmissions. They're demanding to know how we were able to penetrate their shields. They're calling our weapons impossible. Impossible? Captain Kim almost smiled. Tell Admiral Vextra that human weapons are designed for real combat, not for intimidating people who can't fight back. Minho sent the message, and within moments they received a reply. Sir, Admiral Vextra is asking what kind of species we are. He says no primitive civilization has ever possessed such weapons. Primitive? Captain Kim said. We haven't even started yet. As if to prove his point, the other alien ships began moving into attack formation. But their movements were clumsy and uncertain. They had never had to fight an enemy who could actually hurt them. Ji-Hai was already tracking their movements. Sir, they're trying to surround us. But their formation has huge gaps, and they're moving too slowly. It's like they've never actually fought a space battle before. That's probably because they haven't, So Young said. Think about it. If every species they've met has surrendered immediately, they've never needed to learn real combat tactics. Tejo spoke up from his engineering station. Captain, our engines are running perfectly. We can outmaneuver those big ships easily, and our weapons have longer range than theirs. Captain Kim looked at his crew. They were humans, from a species that had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They understood tactics, strategy, and the harsh realities of combat. These aliens, for all their advanced technology, had never learned those lessons. All right, people. Let's show them what happens when you challenge a species that knows how to fight. The remaining 11 alien ships began their attack, but they were about to learn that there was a big difference between scaring defenseless victims and fighting a real battle. The Cathari reinforcement fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 40 warships arranged themselves in precise lines, their hulls gleaming with polished metal and glowing lights. At their center was the flagship of Supreme Admiral Kethvar, a vessel twice as large as any other ship in the fleet. Supreme Admiral Kethvar stood on his bridge, his tall frame draped in ceremonial robes that showed his high rank in the Cathari Empire. His black eyes surveyed the battlefield where 12 of his ships floated powerless and damaged. Impossible, he muttered. One primitive vessel did all this? His tactical officer, a younger Cathari with nervous movements, pointed to the sensor display. Sir, the human ship is there. It appears undamaged. Our sensors show it has some kind of kinetic weapons that can penetrate our energy shields. Kethavar's lips curled into what might have been a smile on a human face, but looked threatening on his alien features. Kinetic weapons? Crude projectiles. No matter how fast they move, they cannot stand against 40 ships. We will overwhelm them with sheer numbers. On the UES Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo Kim was making a decision that would change everything. He turned to communications specialist Minho Jung. Minho, I want you to prepare a complete data package about human history. Include everything. Our wars, our weapons development, our military strategies. Everything that explains why we fight the way we do. Minho looked surprised. Sir, that's classified information. Earth Command regulations say we shouldn't share military secrets with unknown aliens. These aliens aren't unknown anymore, Captain Kim replied. They're enemies who need to understand exactly what they're dealing with. Maybe if they understand what humanity is really like, they'll think twice about continuing this fight. Commander So Young Park understood what the captain was planning. Sir, you want to shock them with the truth about human nature? Exactly. They think we're just another primitive species that got lucky with some advanced weapons. They need to understand that we're something completely different. Chief Engineer Tae-Ho Lee was monitoring the approaching alien fleet. Captain, those ships are bigger than the ones we just fought. Some of them are 3 times our size. But sir, they're making the same mistake as before. What do you mean? They're flying in perfect formation like they're on parade. They're not spreading out or using any tactical positioning. It's like they think their size and numbers are all they need to win. Weapons Officer Ji-Hai Choi was studying the new ships on her tactical display. Sir, their weapons are larger versions of what we've already seen. More powerful plasma cannons, but still energy-based. Our railguns will go through their shields just like before. Captain Kim nodded. Prepare the data package for transmission, Minho. But first, let me talk to their admiral. Channel open to the alien flagship, sir. Supreme Admiral Kethavar, this is Captain Kim. Before we continue this fight, I want to give you something. It's information about my species. After you review it, you might want to reconsider your current course of action. Kethavar's voice came back filled with arrogance. I do not need to learn about primitives. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Transmit the package anyway, Minho. The data package streamed across space to the alien fleet. It contained thousands of years of human history, but focused on one aspect: humanity's relationship with war and conflict. On the Cathari flagship, the science officer who received the data began to analyze it. At first he was dismissive. Another species trying to impress them with their primitive culture. But as he dug deeper into the information, his expression changed. Sir, he called to Supreme Admiral Kethavar, you need to see this data immediately. What could primitives possibly tell us that we need to know? Sir, they're not primitives. Look at this. The science officer put the human historical data on the main screen. They have been fighting continuous wars for over 5,000 years. Not just small conflicts, but massive battles involving millions of soldiers. Kethavar looked at the display with growing disbelief. This cannot be accurate. No species fights wars against itself for thousands of years. It gets worse, sir. Look at their weapons development. Every piece of technology on that human ship was designed and tested in actual combat. Their railguns are based on weapons they used to fight each other on their home planet. Their defensive systems were developed to stop weapons fired by other humans. Another officer joined the analysis. Sir, their military strategies. They have thousands of different battle tactics. They have studied every possible way to fight in space on planets in different gravity conditions, with different weapons. It's like their entire culture is built around the science of warfare. Kethavar felt a chill run through his body. Show me their recent conflicts. The data revealed something that shocked every alien who saw it. Humans had fought 2 massive global wars in just the past century. They had developed nuclear weapons and used them against each other. They had built spacecraft specifically designed to fight other spacecraft. These beings, whispered the science officer, they don't just fight other species. They fight each other. They have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war against enemies, who are just as intelligent and dangerous as they are. Kethavar looked at the battlefield where his 12 ships had been defeated by a single human vessel. Suddenly it made terrible sense. The Cathari had conquered other species by showing up with superior technology and overwhelming force. But they had never fought anyone who fought back effectively. The humans, on the other hand, had spent their entire history fighting opponents who were equally smart, equally determined, and equally well-armed. Every human weapon had been tested against humans. Every human tactic had been developed to beat other humans. Sir, said his tactical officer quietly, there's more. According to this data, the human ship we're facing isn't even their most advanced warship. It's just a survey vessel on an exploration mission. Their actual military fleets are much larger and more powerful. Kethavar stared at the human battleship on his screen. It looked small compared to his 40 ships. But now he understood that he wasn't looking at a primitive vessel that had gotten lucky. He was looking at a machine designed by a species that had turned warfare into an art form. Captain Kim's voice came over the communication channel again. Supreme Admiral, have you had time to review our historical data? There was a long pause before Kethavar replied. His voice was much quieter than before. Your species. You fight each other. You have been at war for your entire recorded history. That's correct. We learned to fight by fighting the most dangerous opponents in the galaxy. Ourselves. Every weapon we build, Every tactic we use, every strategy we employ has been tested against enemies who are just as smart and just as determined as we are. Another pause. What? What do you want from us? I want you to understand that this doesn't have to end with more of your ships being destroyed. You came here expecting to find another helpless species to add to your empire. Instead, you found predators. We don't surrender and we don't run away, but we also don't have to be enemies. You would spare us? If you withdraw from this sector and leave us alone, yes. But if you continue to attack us, you'll learn why humanity has never lost a war we were determined to win. Supreme Admiral Kethvar looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. For the first time in Kethari history, they were facing an enemy that might actually be able to defeat them. The question was, would pride overcome wisdom, or would the Kethari finally learn when to back down? Admiral Vextra floated in the emergency command center of his damaged flagship. The main bridge was gone, destroyed by the human weapon that had punched through his ship like it was made of thin metal. Around him, his crew worked desperately to keep the ship from falling apart completely. "Admiral, we have established contact with the home fleet," reported his communications officer. The alien's blue skin was pale with fear and shock. "Reinforcements are on their way. 40 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers." Vextra felt some of his confidence return. 40 ships against 1 primitive human vessel. Even if these humans had strange weapons, they could not possibly fight against such overwhelming numbers. "Good. Tell them to hurry. And make sure they understand that these humans are not like other species we have encountered. They actually fight back." On the UES Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo Kim watched as the remaining 11 alien ships tried to form an attack pattern around his battleship. Their movements were slow and predictable, like they were following instructions from a training manual instead of adapting to real combat. "Ji-hai, what do you make of their tactics?" he asked his weapons officer. Ji-hai Choi studied the alien formations on her tactical display. "Sir, they're using a standard encirclement pattern. It would work well against a ship that just sat still and let them surround it. But they're not accounting for our mobility or our weapons range." Chief Engineer Taeho Lee called out from his station. "Captain, I'm reading their engine signatures. Those ships are powerful, but they're built for long-distance travel, not for quick maneuvering in combat. We can run circles around them." "Then let's do exactly that," Captain Kim ordered. "Take us to full combat speed. Target the ship on our starboard side." The Indomitable suddenly accelerated, its advanced engines pushing the battleship forward much faster than the aliens had expected. The human ship didn't try to run away or hide. Instead, it charged directly at one of the alien vessels. "Impossible," shouted the captain of the targeted Kethari ship. "They're coming straight at us." "Don't they understand that we have superior numbers?" His weapons officer fired their plasma cannons, but the human ship was moving too fast and changing direction too quickly. The energy bolts flew harmlessly past their target. Ji-hai had no trouble targeting the alien ship. Its movements were slow and predictable. "Firing railgun 2, she announced calmly. Another tungsten projectile screamed across space and punched through the alien ship's shields and hull. The Kethari vessel shuddered and began to lose power, just like the flagship had. But the Indomitable didn't stop there. Captain Kim had studied every human naval battle in history during his training. He knew that the key to fighting superior numbers was to hit fast, hit hard, and keep moving. "Bring us around to target the next ship," he ordered. "Don't give them time to coordinate their attack." Communications specialist Min Ho Jung was listening to the alien radio transmissions. "Sir, they're trying to communicate with each other, but they're panicking." "I don't think they've ever had to coordinate an attack against an enemy that fights back." This gave Captain Kim an idea. "Minho, can you jam their communications?" "Yes, sir. I can create interference that will make it very difficult for them to talk to each other." "Do it. If they can't coordinate, they can't work together effectively." As the alien communications became filled with static and confusion, the Indomitable continued its deadly dance through space. The human battleship would accelerate toward one alien ship, fire its railgun, then immediately change course to target another vessel, before the aliens could respond effectively. Commander So Young Park was coordinating the ship's defensive systems. "Sir, their plasma cannons are powerful, but they're having trouble hitting us. We're moving too fast and too unpredictably for their targeting systems." The aliens had designed their weapons to fight enemies who would stand still and trade shots. They had never learned to fight an opponent who used speed and maneuverability as weapons. Within an hour, the Indomitable had disabled or destroyed 6 more alien ships. The remaining 4 vessels were trying to retreat, but Captain Kim wasn't ready to let them go. "Tae-ho, can you give me more speed?" "Already pushing the engines to 110%, sir. We can maintain this for another 2 hours easily." The human battleship chased down the fleeing aliens one by one. Each time the same pattern repeated. The alien ship would try to fight, but their weapons couldn't hit the fast-moving human vessel. The Indomitable would fire its railgun, and another alien ship would be disabled. When the last of the original 12 alien ships was drifting powerless in space, Captain Kim finally ordered his ship to stop. "Minho, open a channel to all the alien vessels." "Channel open." "Sir, this is Captain Kim. Your ships are defeated. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses, and you cannot hit a target that refuses to stand still and be shot at. I want to speak with your admiral." A few minutes later, Admiral Vextra's voice came through the speakers. The proud alien commander sounded shaken and confused. "How is this possible? We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Our ships are superior to anything we have ever encountered." "Your technology is impressive," Captain Kim replied, "but you've never learned how to actually fight a war. You've spent so long bullying species that couldn't fight back that you forgot how to handle real combat." So Young leaned over to whisper to the captain. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching. Long-range sensors show a large fleet heading our way." Captain Kim nodded. He had expected this. The aliens would call for reinforcements rather than accept defeat. "Admiral Vextra, I'm detecting your reinforcements approaching. 40 ships by our count. Let me ask you something. Do you really think that sending more ships with the same weaknesses is going to change the outcome?" There was a long pause before Vextra replied. "You are only one ship. We will overwhelm you with superior numbers. You tried that strategy with 12 ships. How did that work out for you?" Ji-hai looked up from her weapons console. "Sir, all railgun systems are reloaded and ready. Point defense lasers are fully charged. Missile tubes are loaded with our new guided warheads," Tae-ho called out from engineering. "Engines are running perfectly, Captain. I can give you everything you need." Minho was monitoring alien communications. "Sir, the incoming fleet is led by something called a Supreme Admiral. They seem very confident that they can crush us." Captain Kim looked around at his crew. They were humans. Members of a species that had never lost a war they were determined to win. They understood something that these aliens didn't. That superior technology meant nothing without the skill and experience to use it properly. "Well then," Captain Kim said with a slight smile, "let's prepare to give them a proper education." In human military doctrine, the alien reinforcements were about to learn that 40 ships were just 40 more targets for a species that had turned warfare into an art form. Supreme Admiral Kethvar stared at the human historical data for long minutes, his black eyes reflecting the glow of his command screens. Around him, his bridge crew waited in tense silence. Never before had a Cathari fleet commander faced such a decision. The Empire had built its power on the simple principle that overwhelming force would make any enemy surrender immediately. But these humans were different. They had studied war like other species studied art or science. They had spent thousands of years fighting opponents who were just as intelligent and dangerous as themselves. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kethvar's pride as a Cathari warrior battled with his growing understanding of what they truly faced. The humans had given him a choice: withdraw with honor, or continue fighting and face the consequences. But as he looked at his 40 beautiful warships arranged in their perfect formation, pride won over wisdom. "All ships," he commanded, "attack formation Delta 7. We will overwhelm the human vessel with concentrated fire. No single ship, no matter how advanced, can stand against the combined might of the Cathari Empire." On the UES Indomitable, communications specialist Minho Jung detected the change in alien ship positions immediately. "Captain, the enemy fleet is moving into attack formation. They're going to try to surround us again." Captain Hyun-woo Kim sighed with disappointment. He had hoped that showing the aliens the truth about humanity would convince them to withdraw peacefully. Instead, they had chosen to continue the fight. "So be it," he said quietly. "Jihi, bring all weapons to full combat readiness. Tae-ho, I need maximum power to engines and maneuvering thrusters." Chief Engineer Tae-ho Lee's fingers danced over his control panel. "All systems green, Captain. The ship is ready for anything you need." Commander So Young Park studied the alien formation on the tactical display. Sir, they're using the same strategy as before, just with more ships. They still don't understand how to fight an opponent that won't stand still. Weapons Officer Ji-Hai Choi had already identified the key targets in the enemy fleet. Captain, their flagship is in the center of the formation. If we can disable their command ship, the others might lose coordination. Good thinking, but we're going to do something different this time, Captain Kim said. Minho, patch me through to the ship's Marine detachment. Major Dong Hyun Kang's voice came through the speakers from the Marine barracks deep inside the ship. Marines ready, sir. What do you need? Major, how would you and your men feel about taking a little trip to visit our alien friends? There was a pause, then Dong Hyun's excited reply. Sir, are you talking about a boarding action? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Can your men handle fighting in zero gravity against aliens? Sir, we've been training for this scenario since we left Earth. My Marines are ready to show these aliens what close quarters combat really means. The alien fleet began their attack with coordinated plasma cannon fire. Bright bolts of energy filled the space around the Indomitable, but Captain Kim had learned from the previous battle. The human ship twisted and accelerated through the enemy fire, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted effectively. Their accuracy is even worse than before, Ji-Hai reported. They can't adjust their targeting fast enough to track our movements. The Indomitable fired back with its railguns, sending tungsten projectiles screaming through space at incredible velocity. Each shot punched through alien energy shields and hull armor like they were made of paper, but instead of trying to destroy the alien ships completely, Captain Kim had ordered precision strikes. Target their weapons and engines, he commanded. I want them disabled, not destroyed. One by one, alien ships found themselves drifting helpless as human kinetic weapons crippled their ability to fight or maneuver. The Cathari had never encountered an enemy who could disable their ships so precisely. Sir, So Young called out, we're in position to make our run on their flagship. Captain Kim activated the ship's intercom. All hands prepare for boarding action. This is not a drill. The Indomitable accelerated directly toward the massive alien command ship. Plasma cannon fire surrounded the human battleship, but none of it could hit the fast-moving target. Tae-ho, bring us alongside their docking bays. Ji-Hai, use point defense lasers to clear a path for our boarding pods. The human ship's smaller laser weapons carved through the alien hull like a surgical knife, opening passages for the Marine boarding pods. Within minutes, Major Dong Hyun and his 30 Marines were crossing the gap between the two ships in armored assault pods. Supreme Admiral Kethvar felt his flagship shudder as the human boarding pods attached to his hull. Impossible. They're actually trying to board us. Sir, we have intruders in sections 7 through 12, his security chief reported. They're fighting their way toward the command center. The Cathari had never faced human Marines in close combat before. The aliens were taller and stronger than humans, but they had never learned to fight as individuals. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming technological superiority, not personal combat skills. The human Marines, on the other hand, had trained for exactly this kind of fighting. They moved through the alien ship in small teams, using tactics developed through centuries of close-quarters battle. Their weapons were designed for fighting in confined spaces, and their armor protected them from alien plasma weapons. Major, this is Captain Kim. What's your status? Dong Hyun's voice came back through the radio, calm and professional despite the sound of weapons fire in the background. We've secured 3 decks, sir. Alien resistance is light. They don't seem to know how to fight boarding actions. How long until you reach their bridge? Give us 15 minutes, sir. On the alien bridge, Supreme Admiral Kethvar watched in growing horror as the human Marines fought their way through his ship. His security forces were falling back on every level, unable to stop the small but deadly human assault teams. How can so few of them be defeating our entire security force? He demanded. His tactical officer was monitoring the battle through the ship's internal sensors. Sir, they fight like nothing we have ever seen. They coordinate perfectly. They use their weapons with incredible precision, and they seem to have no fear at all. Seal the blast doors. Flood the corridors with plasma fire. Stop them. But every defensive measure the aliens tried failed. The human Marines cut through blast doors with portable plasma torches. They avoided the defensive weapons with movements that seemed impossible, and they kept advancing steadily toward the bridge. Finally, the bridge doors exploded inward. Major Dong-Hyun Kang stepped through the smoke, his assault rifle trained on Supreme Admiral Kethvar. Behind him came 5 more Marines, their weapons covering every alien on the bridge. "Supreme Admiral," Dong-Hyun said politely, "you are now a prisoner of the United Earth Space Command. Please order your fleet to stand down immediately." Kethvar looked around his bridge at his defeated crew, then at the human Marines who had captured his flagship in less than 20 minutes. Everything he had believed about Cathari's superiority lay in ruins around him. "How?" he whispered. "How did you do this?" Major Dong-Hyun removed his helmet, revealing a young human face marked by determination and professional competence. "Sir, we're Marines. This is what we do." Captain Kim's voice came through the communication system from the Indomitable. "Supreme Admiral, this is your final chance. Order your fleet to withdraw, or we'll capture every one of your ships the same way we captured yours." Kethvar looked at the human Marine Major, then at his own defeated crew. He thought about the 40 ships in his fleet, and how helpless they had proven against just one human vessel. "All ships," he said into his command microphone, his voice heavy with defeat, "cease fire and withdraw to safe distance. The humans have won." As the alien fleet pulled back, Captain Kim opened a final communication channel to all the Cathari ships. "Supreme Admiral, you came here expecting to find another helpless species to add to your empire. Instead, you found something you've never encountered before. A species that has earned its place in the galaxy through strength, skill, and determination. We don't surrender, we don't run away, and we don't bow down to bullies." He paused, letting his words sink into every alien listening. "But we also don't have to be enemies. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, as long as everyone understands that humanity demands respect. Not as a gift, but as something we've earned. Remember this day and remember that there are some species in this universe that you cannot intimidate or conquer." The Cathari fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying with them the news that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity had announced its arrival among the stars not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as warriors demanding recognition. Captain Hyun-Woo Kim stood on his bridge, looking out at the stars that suddenly seemed less lonely. Word of this encounter would spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien species would learn that Earth's children had inherited their parents' gift for warfare, and that humanity had claimed its place among the stars through courage, skill, and the willingness to fight for what they believed in. The age of human expansion had truly begun.